Thank you very much for making a date on the marketplace. You're welcome back. Now, head of the newly established Israeli Trade and Economic Mission to Ghana, Ayelet Levin-Karp, has lauded government's agriculture and industrial intervention programs, including the One District, One Factory approach to industrial transformation. The newly established Israeli Trade Mission in Accra is part of Israel's government's resolution last year to help strengthen trade ties between Israel and Ghana. Head of the mission praised efforts to develop Ghana's agric and noted that Israel is ready to deploy its technological expertise in that regard. I spoke with her at the sidelines of a ceremony to mark the reopening of the Israeli embassy in Ghana.
At the end of the day, it's all about technology, about better seeds, better irrigation, greenhouse technology. Israel has a lot to offer in those fields, and at the end of the day, if you want to have good crops, you have to invest. That at the end of the day is the story. And post-harvesting and treatment of the fields. And I think Ghana is going towards that way, but a lot of research, a lot of innovation. Agriculture that's based on real knowledge of the field is, I think, what gave Israel its success, and we're happy to share it. It doesn't have to contradict, because you can have only better yield and getting employment, but also high quality employment. So if you have people, technology is not always to replace people, but if you use good technology, good irrigation systems, good taking care of things that are eating your crops and getting better seeds, you just get higher yields. So you can have the same people, same 2, 3, 5 people working in the field, but getting double and triple amount of crops, and then just being better off. First of all, that's a very right approach, because agriculture alone can take you only that far, and processing that products and getting it to a higher value is something that Israel, anywhere that wants to get better and a better economy, should be focusing on. Israel has a very thriving food tech sector and a lot of expertise in that, and which we're obviously willing to share, and we will work along with that policy, trying to promote Israeli businesses to come and open here factories and or bring technologies to factories that are opening. Definitely want to get involved in it.
And the University of Cape Coast has made a breakthrough in production of cowpea.
Varieties recommended this week brings to 7 the number of cowpea varieties discovered by the University of Cape Coast that have been recommended for approval in 1 month. Out of the 8 products submitted, the committee selected 4 that had attributes of the other 4, which will also in turn go through the process of selection and endorsement. Plant biotechnologist and leader of the research team, Professor Aaron Asari, said the selection of the climate-resilient and high-yielding cowpea genotypes adaptable to the coastal savanna would complement production in the 3 regions of the north where drought was a major challenge.
Yes, this candidate cowpea cultivars that have been recommended for further approval and release as varieties are so distinct from the ones that has been recommended for the southern sector, in the sense that they are resistant to Striga gesnerides, which is a parasitic weed that affects cowpea production in the 3 regions of northern Ghana. That is the Upper East, Upper West, and the North. We have plans to make this available to the certified seed producers, who would, in the long term, multiply the seeds and then commercialize it for farmers to buy and then cultivate.
A senior lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Richard Akroma, is calling on the College of Agriculture and Natural Science of the University of Cape Coast to develop a product guide on the new variety of crops the college has researched into.
In Ghana, cowpea yields on farmers' fields are sometimes around 1 ton or less, than sometimes 800 kilograms per hectare. Even on research fields, the earlier varieties are giving 1.8 tons. So to see a new line based on data that we have observed through their checks, that they can have a potential yield of 2.6 tons is a big achievement. So we released them for two reasons. One, their resistance to striga, and two, their resistance to the root rot disease. And then on top of that, they have superior potential.
The varieties found to be more drought and diseases resilient and high yielding would be released to the seed production companies for onward distribution to farmers in the country after certification and approval by the National Seed Council. The project is being organized in collaboration with the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute and the Plant Genetic Resources Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, and the University of Virginia in the United States of America. Richard Kwejunyako, Joy News.
All right, so we'll be getting back to agriculture, where we're going to bring to you updates on the final of the Cosmos Innovation Challenge ongoing at the University of Ghana shortly. Now, the IMF says it plans to finalize talks with government on completion of the fund program before the end of this month. The IMF Africa boss, Abebe Selassie, disclosed this at the ongoing IMF World Annual Meetings in Bali, Indonesia.
The IMF program with Ghana is on track. We just had a team in Accra for a review mission, and the findings of that will hopefully be finalized in the coming weeks. What we've seen in the last couple of years in Ghana has been implementation of fairly robust fiscal adjustments, quite a lot of measures also to try and strengthen the banking system. These are very welcome steps, but there remains quite a number of things that need to be finalized in the coming months. One in particular is to and very much consistent with the President's vision of moving Ghana beyond aid, is going to be to put that policy into full effect. It will be important to mobilize more tax revenues because that's the way that the country can reduce its reliance on aid, and we look forward to the measures that are going to be implemented in that direction. So what we try and address in this paper, in this report, is that Sub-Saharan Africa is going through a very, very important demographic transition at the moment. So the number of young people entering the labor force over the next 10-15 years will double. At the moment we have around 10-12 new entrants into the labor market. That will go up to around 20 million by 2030 or so. So there's going to be, countries are going to be facing an important challenge of creating a lot more, needing to create a lot more jobs. This challenge is happening at the same time when there are questions being raised about how much labor demand there will be going forward because of the ongoing, what's been called the fourth industrial revolution. There's questions about the future of work, robots replacing human beings potentially. So the question is, what is the challenge facing Sub-Saharan Africa and countries in particular with jobs disappearing potentially and all these new entrants into the labor markets.
Meanwhile, Managing Director of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, is urging world leaders to cooperate towards a more inclusive and sustainable growth expansion. Christine Lagarde was addressing a news conference at the IMF World Bank annual meetings in Bali, Indonesia.
The real question is the economy strong enough? And to that, our answer is probably not enough, because we clearly see that growth has plateaued if 3 years in a row it is at 3.7%. And we also see that that growth is more unevenly allocated around the world. Moreover, some of the risks that we have highlighted, particularly at our spring meeting in April, have now begun to materialize, especially from the rising trade barriers. And if these tensions were to escalate, the global economy would take a significant hit. So our strong recommendation is to de-escalate those tensions and work toward a global trade system that is stronger, that is fairer, and that is fit for purpose. To achieve these goals, we need a stronger international cooperation as well. I'm going to quote Balinese again, and I will promise to translate this time. Menyama vraya, which means that everyone is a brother or a sister of the other. So we are joining hands and we are on that same boat, which should be steered and not drift.
Let's turn away from the IMF and move back into Agric now. And 4 final teams of the 2018 Cosmos Innovation Center Agrotech Challenge have successfully pitched their business concepts at the ongoing business plan pitch finals. The ideas, which are all aimed at solving problems in the agricultural value chain, have evolved and been shaped over the months of training and grooming by the KIC. Joy Business's Karen Dodu joins us live from Ise at the University of Ghana, where the final pitch is still going on. Now, good afternoon, Karen. Welcome to the marketplace now.
Hello.
Now, Karen, how have the presentations by the teams been so far?
So, Emmanuel, it's been a very, very competitive competition, I must say. We've had 4 teams so far present their ideas. We've had Growth Factor, Farm Cure, Quidus, and Actem. They're currently on a break, but then it's still no break for them because we have 4 more teams to come present their ideas and convince the judges that they are worth the $50 million seed fund. I've been joined by one of the judges, Mrs. Pearl Coleman Akka, and I want to find out from her how it's been. She's seen the presentations and what she makes of the efforts so far. Hello.
Hello, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I think for us, this is a really great idea where we get to have the youth come back into the agricultural sector and bring fresh ideas and fresh innovations and solutions to help solve core problems within the sector. Today, we are really pleased to see some of the innovations that the children of the youth have presented. They're not children anymore. And the opportunity that they have to be able to help this sector go forward. I mean, so far we've seen innovative ideas like to help with access to finance, which is a major problem, to help with the pest issue, which is another major problem. And we look forward to seeing even more innovations coming up as the other 4 groups come together. I mean, this process starts, we are not just judges, we are what we call an ideation panel. So we see them through in a mentorship process from the very beginning when they apply, and we see their ideas and help them grow their ideas to become a serious business. We always say you are not just here to present to us and we applaud and you go home. This is a business solution. We want you to go out there and establish a business. We want you to create employment for yourself as a young entrepreneur and for other youth to come into the sector. And so the whole process here is for you to strengthen that business concept so that tomorrow when you win the $50,000, you can actually use it to strengthen the concept and actually hit the ground running. So that's the whole idea we have here.
Okay, so you heard her. She's a member of the ideation team. Now, Joy Business as partners of this challenge have been following the teams, and for the past 8 months, they've gone through a series of market research and other preparations. Now, I've also been joined by one of their mentors. He's Dr. Ishmael Yamson. He's going to tell me, he's been here, he's in the presentation, but then moving forward, how will these businesses thrive in the Ghanaian market? Welcome to Marketplace, Dr. Yamson.
Thank you. It's actually Mr. Ishmael Yamson. I have a few years to go to get that doctorate. No, I think that the initiative has been an excellent one. It's good to see young people really applying themselves. It is extremely good to see the ideation team actually given their time, because these are people who all have their day-to-day jobs, and they are given of their time to help young people develop their ideas. Today is not really about who will give the best pitch and who will win the funds that Cosmos is putting on the table. It's about a group of young people who've come up with innovative ideas that will be the captains of industry tomorrow. It is about them testing the ideas. It is about them hearing about the right things that they can do to accelerate their businesses. It is all of these learnings that they are going to get from today's session. That is really what this is about. Now, if they take on board the advice that they are getting from the pool of people that Cosmos have brought around them, then yes, I do not see any reason why they will not be fantastic successes come tomorrow. Whatever happens today, it's about the learning. If they pick up the learning, regardless of whether they pick up money today or not, they will be successful in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. So there you have it. So it's not just about the money, but then about the learning experience that these 8 teams will get. Well, I spoke to some of the teams that have pitched so far, and you can see that even if they don't win, they still have that passion to push the business forward. So, but then it's still the $50,000 seed fund for them, hoping that one of them would win. And that will be announced on the 11th of November. And that gives a whole month for these teams to be anxious and wait for the results.
To the various pitches so far, how do you personally assess them? Are they quite innovative? Are they interesting? Karen, you've been listening through to the various pitches so far. How innovative do you think they are and how interesting are they?
Could you please repeat that, Emmanuel?
Yes, I'm saying that you've been sitting through, also witnessing the various pitches that have come up so far. How do you find them? How do you assess them?
If I heard you right, you're asking how the other pitches have been so far.
Exactly.
So the other pitches have been more or less a presentation of what you've learned. So they've had several stages where they've gone for market research. Now, market research is when they got to really test their products. They were given $2,000 each to come up with products that would help boost the businesses. So like applications for phones and websites. So market research, after market research, they got the chance to pitch their idea to the teams, and after that, they've also done another one where they went on field to speak to farmers about their problems, and that even started the whole business idea. So I'd say those pitches were not as key as this very final one. This final one is a compilation of everything they've learned, and this is their chance to let the judges know that they've put to good use all the resources invested in them, all the time invested in them, and that they are worth the seed fund.
All right, thank you so much, Karen Dodu, who has been joining us live from the University of Ghana, bringing us up to speed with the finals of the Cosmos Agrotech Challenge. And of course, final winner is expected to be announced on the 11th of next month. Let's now turn attention to the financial sector, and the banking sector continues to undergo some challenges, with the latest being a wave of panic withdrawals by customers of some banks and savings and loans companies. A key question that arises is what exactly is causing this, and is there a way around it? Joining me in the studio now is our in-house analyst and researcher, Philip Namfuri. He will help us understand how exactly banks have been using their funds and how they also affect liquidity problems and panic withdrawals. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes. Now tell us, what's the overview of the way banks use their funds?
Okay, so the first thing we want to learn is that on the balance sheet, we have the assets and the liabilities. On the assets part is where we see the use of bank funds. So you can have a bank putting money in lending, putting money in investments such as treasury bills, shares, putting money also in property, plant and equipment, what it's used to run its business, its cars, its buildings. And also you can have the bank keeping some as cash or as balance with the central bank. That's in this case the Bank of Ghana.
All right, now, is there a different use of funds by, commercial banks? Is there a different way that commercial banks use their funds?
No, globally it's the same thing. It might differ in terms of wording. Maybe in the United States, they might call it physical capital. When you come to our balance sheets, that part is referred to as property, plant, and equipment. That's got to do with the buildings, got to do with the cars, got to do with the equipment they use in running the banking business. So it's not different anywhere, it's just the same thing. But it differs in how each bank allocates its funds. So we have some banks maybe putting more in terms of investments, putting more in terms of lending and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, we would like you to give us a picture of the particular data and how it looks like. I think the data is up there. You can refer to it and tell us what exactly it means.
Okay, before I get to that data, I did some research with a friend of mine. He's an analyst with EYJ. His name is Alfred Kujoji. And we ran a number of banks, 11 banks, 12 banks, over a period of 5 years, 2000 and 2015. And we found out that on the average, banks in Ghana, after the time we conducted the research, over a 5-year period, committed over or between 40 to 50% of their funds in lending. Then we have between 12 to 19% in treasury bills or in investments, between 11 to 15% as cash, and between 7 to 17% as investments from other banks. Now, the data you see here is from the Bank of Ghana. This is their latest banking sector report. And now, it will interest you to know that over the period of since 2015 till now, the share of banks' investments in loans has been going down. Okay. And then they've been putting more money in investments such as treasury bills and other things.
Why is this so?
Very good. So you realize that there has been, every time there's a banking report, there's always non-performing loans. Banks have realized that when they put their money into lending, they don't get a lot of it back. And when you don't get money back and somebody comes to withdraw, you don't have that money to meet the person's demands. Okay. So then that's where the liquidity issue comes in. And then if somebody goes and doesn't get his money, he tells a friend who tells a friend, and the panic withdrawal starts. So now banks are shifting into government securities, treasury bills. And they've also moved from short-term government securities to long-term. Okay. Why? The short-term ones are yielding very little. The rates on them are low, as you've seen. So now they're moving to the high-end part where they're going to get more returns, and that's long-term. So when banks put in these funds into government securities, they keep some on cash. It's going to give them more liquidity so that when you come for your money, they have something to give you. Okay. So that's basically, that's data from the Bank of Ghana.
Are there some exceptions to this particular trend that's going on?
Okay, so for an industry average, I would say no. That's the data is showing that. But for some bank specifics, you realize that you realize that there are some banks that are dropping their funds in certain places. So we have a particular bank may decide to lend more than they invest in treasury bills. Some would like to invest more in treasury bills than they lend. But when you put all the 30 banks, 34 banks, as at the time this data was put together, you would realize that as of April 2018, 35.90% of banks' funds were going into investments. And that's higher than 31.58%, which was going to lending. So essentially, banks are investing more in treasury bills and securities than they're giving us money.
Now, is this trend going to, to change at all in any way?
If the non-performing loans, if the banks don't undertake strategies or the economy doesn't fix itself in a way that non-performing loans drop, this trend will continue. Also, if the yields on investments, treasury bills, continue going up and up, then we'll see that banks will push more money there. So unless these things correct themselves, more or less, we're going to see this trend continuing for a while.
And it's not going to affect businesses, especially the private sector, which demand or which access credit more financing from banks.
Surely it would, and you've heard customers complaining that they don't get credit. If steps are not put in place to address it, it's going to further exacerbate and to be worse for all of us.
What's your advice then on this?
Well, this is it's a broad issue. There are multiplicity of things that go into it, but banks can sit down and really assess the situation and see how best they can make money for the shareholders, at the same time contribute to the development of the economy.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry for that update. Philip bringing us up to speed with exactly what banks have been using their funds for, and for which it's reflecting in non-performing loans, as well as some panic withdrawals that have hit banks in recent times. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji. We are free. Have a good afternoon.